Well, it's nice to visit with you. We thought about the fireside chats that occurred during the time of FDR and the Great Depression when people sat around their radios and listened to someone who was telling them about his experiences and relating to them. And I thought, what can we do? And I thought about what our business has been to us over the years, and how things have happened in the business. And we were given this wonderful building by the federal government as a default from the S&L crisis, and it's been a wonderful edifice for us. And I thought of the Field of Dreams concept. If you build it, they will come. And as it happens, they have come. And we've had interesting experiences. Early on, when we moved in here 26 years ago, for many years, my mother was with us. And excuse me. She was, when she passed away, I thought, well, she was such a fixture, and people would walk in and they'd walk right past me and go talk to her. And I thought, well, when she passed away, I don't know if anyone will ever come back in here again. But they have. But there was a particular experience we had about well, it was in 2001, and my wife particularly likes Debbie Reynolds. For those who don't know who that is, that's Princess Leia's mother. And
Singing in the Rain.
Singing in the Rain, that's right. And so she was in town. She was at Symphony Hall. And I thought, well, it's a chance to surprise my wife who idolized Debbie Reynolds. And excuse me one second. So I went down to Symphony Hall, and I was able to purchase tickets on the front row. Pardon me. And so I came back, and standing here in the entry with my mother was Debbie Reynolds. And they'd been talking for about an hour, comparing notes and so on. They had both married Jewish boys and gone through a lot of experiences they seemed to have in common, and they enjoyed each other's company. So I said, well, I was just down there buying tickets to your performance tonight. So she said, well, won't you come back after the performance, come backstage and to my dressing room and say hello and tell me how you like the program. And I said, oh, we would love to do that. So we sat down in our seats. We were on the front row, which surprised me that we could buy those seats. And she's doing her routines and so on. And I'm close enough that I could study her a little bit and noticed how professional she was in every action. Every action had a reason for it. Every turn of her head, every smile, every gesture. She was a true professional. She was 70 years old that year, and she was on the road for 50 weeks that year doing performances. She had lost a great deal of her money as a result of marriages that that didn't work out, and so she was a hard worker. So halfway through her unsinkable Molly Brown routine, she stops and she turns to the audience and she says, "Have you ever been to Anthony's? You should go to Anthony's. It's a wonderful place." And then she went on and talked about it. She said, "Stand up, Anthony." I thought, wow, you can't buy love. So anyway, we enjoyed the performance, and that night we went back and saw her, my wife and I, and friends who we were with. And she said, next time I'm in town, I don't know when that'll be, I would like to come to your home. And I thought, well, gee, that'd be something. And she was really from the golden age of Hollywood. She had done over 60 films. She'd been a co-star with, Singing in the Rain, who was the
Gene Kelly.
With Gene Kelly. And of course, she had danced and been a comedian and been right there at the center of the golden age, the age of innocence, if you will, and had a lot of stories to tell. A very interesting persona and a very large part of the culture that I grew up with. So to have her step into our lives was interesting. So she came in town and she called us. She was staying at one of our local hotels, and she says, "Oh, I'm back. I'd like to come. I'd like to go to dinner with you, and come to your home." I said, "Sure, that's great. What day's good?" And she said, "Well, Sunday." And so we made arrangements to pick her up, and we got reservations at Lakai. As it turned out, we were able to take our children and my mother and her sister. And so we went out to Lakai, and Linda says that they went into the ladies' room, and Debbie took off her girdle, and she says, "Wow, now I can relax." And so we sat down and had dinner, and of course, all of the people at Lakai were so generous and kind, and great service as they were in those days, and I assume they are today as well. David Johnson and his sister and Steve Gustafson were the ones who ran it at that time, and we had a wonderful meal and a relaxing afternoon. And she says, "Well, let's go to your home, and I'd like to see your home, and I'd like to spend some time there." As a sidebar, one of our neighbors said, well, what are you doing tonight? I guess it was, Sunday night coming up, and she had something in mind. I said, "Well, Debbie Reynolds is coming over tonight." She said, "Really?" I said, yeah, she is. "Well, what time's she coming?" I said, 7:30. We think that's about the time she'll be there. So she says, "Okay." So we get into the house and show Debbie around, and there's a knock, comes at the door at 7:30. And here comes this neighbor. And she's got a basket of her muffins, doing her neighborly thing. And she comes to the door and knocks on it. And I open the door, and in our front hall, there's stairs coming down, and we open the door, and there's Debbie coming down the front steps. And my neighbor's jaw drops, and the whole plate full of muffins hit the floor. So I guess she's the one who had the grand entrance. But she sat there on our little settee, child settee, in our family room. And for about 4 hours, she told us her life story. You couldn't shut her up, actually. And she told us one thing after another. Debbie was resigned and to take care of things, so she preserved her family. She watched after her children, and I thought with Mother's Day coming up, I listened to an interview with her last night, thinking about this, and you know, she was so in love with her daughter and with her son, and she was such a cheerleader for them, and she did everything to keep her family together. She was really, truly the girl next door. And we maintained a relationship with her for a number of years. She came back and forth into our lives. We sold a few antiques. My son, who had been part of in the dance world and choreographed a Disney movie, went to her dance studio in L.A. But it was just a great experience, and I was so impressed with her love for her family and for her loyalty to her children and to her capacity to work and maintain a positive attitude. She had a persona that was public, and I'm sure she had a persona that was private. But when she was in our home and in our lives, it was a very positive thing that we've talked about over the years and enjoyed. Here in little old Salt Lake City, to bump up against this great person of our culture, and to enjoy her goodness, and to see her talents and abilities and how she viewed life, and that she would let us step into her life and be part of that, was really a fun thing. I thought you'd like to know about that, because you just don't know what's going on around you all the time. But we're going to share some other things with you as the weeks come up, and we're sitting at home not doing quite as much, and share with you some of the unique things we've been able to purchase, and the history behind them, and some of our interesting clients. And we certainly appreciate being part of your lives. And thank you very much.